Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's My Games Recruitment Show, where we are going to be talking about 5 tips for building strong business relationships, proven and easy ways to boost skills that you can use straight out of the box. And to do that, today, it is in fact me and Big Mike. You're the star of the show today, big guy.
I thought you told me that I was the star of the show every day. I thought that was the case.
You are. It's just that now the focal point, you'd have to share it. And that's why you're wearing that shirt, I assume.
Yeah, kind of really. I'll tell you something else as well. Something happened yesterday which summed up my career in recruitment. I played golf with a client and I was either total rubbish or I got 2 birdies and 4 pars, which for me is very good, right? Because I'm off 18, right? So I don't always do that. That was my career in computing. I was either a conquering hero doing great things or crashed and burnt. So if you're having a crash and burn moment now, don't worry about it because the good times will come back. Those birdies and those pars are just around the corner, just not on this hole. Maybe that's
quite
how are things with you? How are you doing?
If I'd be any better, I'd be twins. All of that malarkey, living my best life, But enough lollygagging. Is that the word? It's a word now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this today because we've got a fair amount to get through. And as always, guys, as we go through, if you're watching us live, please ask any questions, object to Mike, whether it's just about his shirt or whether it's what he's saying. Please do come and comment. We do so appreciate it. But Mike, we're talking about building strong business relationships. And this is something that we've fairly consistently talked about for the last, what feels like 20 years. But can you tell us why we are talking about this today?
I can. There's 2 reasons, but before I do those, we're going to use the information you're going to give us a little later in the show. So we're not going to put your name on it, so you can put what you like. It's going to be anonymous. But could you just put in the comments in the chat whether you're an early starter, a late finisher, both or neither? Early starter, late
So you
finisher.
start at like 6 a.m. You finish at
just
8
before
p.m.
normal office hours, yeah, whatever. Finish late. Some people late finishers. I'm an early starter myself, so if I was typing it in, I'll put early starter. But if you're late finisher, neither or both. I'd really like to know that, actually. Come in handy a bit later. Okay, so good question. 2 reasons why we're doing this today. The first one is the inexorable rise of AI and the implications of that, which I don't really think have begun to hit. And actually, I don't really mean AI. I mean automation is what I actually mean. AI can be part of that, but it's automation that's going to take jobs. It's automation that's taking jobs at Amazon and Google and these places. It's not AI on its own. They're not saying, well, we've got AI now, we've got chat, so we can write our own posts, so sack 100 people. No, I don't think so. It's automation. What that is creating is a divergence, and we're going to talk about that in the new year with Ed Blogg, who's coming on the show to talk about that. But specifically, this has begun now. And I think only those companies with very deep pockets will properly and fully embrace automation because it's expensive to do. So the other refuge is to become niche with a strong network. And the way you do that is good old-fashioned relationship building. So the first reason is triggered by what's happening out there right now. The second reason is that relationship building or networks, which is the result of relationship building, networks have always provided 2 massive benefits to business owners. They basically do a lot of the heavy lifting for you as a business owner. Number 1, they get you access to people that you wouldn't ordinarily get access to because you know somebody and you trust them and they trust you, and they know somebody and they're trusted. So you get this, what do they call it? Inherited credibility, it's called. So it comes to you. So you get access to that person. And also because they can clear obstacles. Networks clear obstacles. And that's really important. And the 5 tips that we're going to give you in a minute are something that can strengthen that relationship building process and build a real network, which is exactly what we want. So I think it's incredibly important. I mean, if you think about it, how did we find candidates and potential clients and contractors before there was LinkedIn and the job boards? Because recruitment pretty much came into its own in the late 60s, early 70s, and then it's lasted ever since. And I was in it from the late 80s to the late teens, I suppose. And for a lot of that time, there was no internet. So how did we do it? Well, we did it through networks. That's how we did it. So I'm very keen really on developing this concept of relationship building. I think there's another thing as well on this, Kirsty, before we press on to the first tip, is that we've had this kind of desk-based recruitment since 2011, maybe post the bust, where you could run your business from your desk, sending emails, LinkedIn, job boards, pick the phone up if you're brave. And I think that's made us all a bit, I wouldn't say lazy when it comes to relationship building. It's sort of we've slipped out of the habit, let's put it that way. And I think it's time for you, if you're a business owner, and your team to start to lift the game. Normally business owners are pretty good at networking actually, but the team not so much. I think it's time to lift the team. Else you're going to find yourself split between the higher level commoditization of recruitment and these kind of niche relationship driven businesses.
That was the point I was going to make before we move on. Is I'm willing to bet a lot of these points, if we're talking about business owners, when you think about it, you'll probably think, oh, I do that, or I inherently do that. And if you own a business, that's probably going to be right. Your team will not do these things naturally, particularly if they're younger and much more less experienced. They won't do these things because they won't know how. And so that's something to take into note of this. Even if you're thinking, as I'm watching this, that's something I already do, think about, does your team do it? And I think that's important. Okay, Mike, let's go into our first tip, which is to collect preferred contact times and methods.
Right. I've started with a simple one, the simplest thing that anybody can do this. And I was trained to do it when I started. It was a big thing. It was punched into us. When you talk to someone for the first time, if you meet them or you manage to speak to them, because we had to ring in those days, office numbers, what do they call, switchboards, right? If you get to speak to them, two things. Well, are you an early starter or a late finisher, right? So if you think about it, especially high value people, high value contacts that you're after, from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock are going to be in meetings, preparing for meetings or debriefing after meetings, right? That they're just busy people. So if you start to ring them or try and contact them between 9 till 5, chances are you won't really get that far. Most people are early starters or late finishers. Sometimes people are both, sometimes people are neither. Good luck with those. But most senior people start early or late or finish late. Once you know what it is, then if you contact them at that time, particularly on the preferred method. So I'm an early starter. So if I wanted to ring you, would I get you like first thing 8 o'clock? Yeah, that'd be fine. Oh, and what's your mobile number in case I need you? I know in many cases people are a bit guarded of the mobile number, but actually if you ask it in that way on the back of something else, if I want to contact you, contact me then. Well, can I have your mobile number? You'll get it. And if they won't give you that, you can still try that slim sliver of people. Have you got a direct dial number that I can get you on? Because I don't think the switchboard is open at that time. I remember once we had a senior salesperson who worked for me, and he was struggling to get this manager. I kept saying, have you spoken? No, I'm trying. So I said, I'll do it then. And I rang later that day. I rang after 5 o'clock, about 5:30, didn't get through. Rang the next morning at 8:15, got him, because he was an early starter. So I think if you understand that the times that you can get people, perhaps when they're driving to work, perhaps if they're early at their office desk or whatever, and if you understand the best method to catch them, you are significantly more likely to get a conversation with them. And you can't build a relationship unless you meet people who talk to them. You can't. You can have a level of a relationship, I suppose, but you can't get it to where you need it to be unless you're prepared to do that.
Yeah, I would say the consensus in the comments, it tends to be veered towards early starter. And I do think I would probably say 70% of people are more early starter than late finisher. But there's a couple of people who kind of dabble with both, but it tends to be the preference is early starter. And I do think the commute is something to not be underestimated. Obviously, a lot of people work from home now, but more and more people are going back in the office, or they're driving to meet people in person again. And if you can get people in the car at the beginning of the day, they are much more likely to entertain a call. But the other thing is, I think we talked about the method. Some people, like if you ring me on the phone, I will happily speak to you, provided you're not going to annoy me. But if you text me, I'll just never ever reply to you, ever. But there are some people, particularly of younger generations, Gen Zs, very much uncomfortable on the phone. So you're better off leaving them a voice note or something like that. But you can still get their mobile number. So asking them for that method is also something to not be underestimated. Although a mobile is the ideal.
Just a quick question: do I look down with the kids?
That's embarrassing. Please take it off. He's put a cap on for those who are listening on the podcast, and it's truly upsetting to look at. It's truly upsetting.
Okay. No, there's something else here that's really important before we press on to the next thing. Things like voicemails. Some people do not listen to voicemails ever. So you should check in, have a little check. If I leave you a voicemail, will you pick it up? No, I never listen to voicemails. Okay. What's the best way to contact you? Oh, send me a LinkedIn message, send me a WhatsApp, send me a text. So you've got, if I want to speak to you, this is the best time and number to get you on. If I just want to send you a message, what's the best way that you'll get it and read it? If you've got those two methods, you will significantly outpace your competitors that don't have that information. It's so simple and so easy. Thought we'd start with that one.
Yeah, it's basically just making their life easier because they are the ones who you need to convince to do something.
You're aligning yourself to the way they work, and therefore you're going to be more successful.
Okay, right. So we're moving on to the second tip now, which is give to the right people before you ask in return.
Okay, right. So let me talk about this. So you must all have been in the situation where you met someone, and before you know it, they're asking you for things. Asking you if they can do a pitch, asking you if they know so-and-so, or just asking for a favor of some sort, but they've not given anything to you. And Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the granddaddy of all those kind of books, said, we all got a relationship bank account with everybody that we know. We're in the black, done more for them than they've done for us. We're in the red, they've done more for us than we've done for them. Or we're in the blue, which is the majority of people, where kind of even Stevens really. You need to be in the black with as many of these important people as you can, because there's that saying, right, which is, what is it? It's not what you know, it's who you know that counts. Well, that's not true. It's not what you know. It's not even who you know. It's who you know who likes you and owes you a favor. That's what counts, right? So doing people favors is really important. Now, don't know about you, Kirsty. Do you struggle to think of ways that you can add value to people?
Not traditionally, because that's part of our job, but not really, no. But I know lots of people do. I know that sometimes they worry that they are going to be part of the problem, not part of the solution. They're going to become a nuisance by trying to add value. Okay,
right. So particularly younger people, or not younger, that's the wrong thing to say, isn't it?
Inexperienced.
That's ageist. Yeah, less experienced. There you go. See, there I am falling into the trap right there. Even a boomer like me, yeah. But less experienced people feel they've got nothing to add. They've got no experience. They've got no network. You know, they've got really nothing to add. You can give your time, you can give your experience, and you can give your ears. You can listen. A lot of people just value that. And the more you do that with people, the more you learn. And then you've got something to take to the next conversation. By the way, I'm not suggesting for an instant that you're going to sacrifice confidences or tell secrets that you've learned. No. But you're going to draw a pattern of things that are happening out there. That's a form of what they call currency. You can trade it. If you've learned it, you can trade it. So the more of these kind of conversations that you have, and you talk about what's happening in business and how are they doing and how you're finding the market, and sharing what you've learned. I do it all the time with people because people do want to know. Many managers that you deal with lead quite isolated lives, many of them. They don't really see very much of what's going on. So you can be the conduit of that information. And you don't need any experience to do that. You just need to talk to people, do a bit of research from time to time and learn stuff. So I think it is important to be able to do that. Now, if you're more experienced, then of course you do have a network to trade. So I'm very old, been around for a very long time.
Oh, no, you're not. So youthful and fresh.
Nobody put that in the comments, Kirsty. So
I know. It's a disappointment.
So I know a shed load of people. If you want to know somebody, if you want to get access to somebody, if you ask me, I'm either going to know somebody or I'm going to know somebody that knows somebody because I've got a very big network. So that's a currency for me. That's the way I can add value and trade. As you say, Kirsty, our business is about knowledge. So we've always got that to trade. But if you're a recruiter, you don't really have that. So I think your time, and also this is going to sound a bit kooky, but it's going to come to what we're going to talk about next, actually. It's this concept of personality. You know, you've got your personality to give, something about you, so that, and this is really important because I think you're right, Kirsty. People lack confidence that they're worthwhile to have a conversation with. So they're very operational.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their view of things is, I'm going to ring up, do the thing. Have you got any requirements, or have you looked at that CV, or how did the interview go, or whatever, and pretty much stick to those tram lines of what it is. And that's for clients. Obviously, for prospects, it is just trying to get an opportunity to talk about what you do and how you're different. So there's very little else. And the problem with that is people don't remember that. You know, the world has become grey. And I don't mean, I think I'm going to sneeze. Oh, that's going to be terrible, isn't it, really?
Drama
Can
queen.
you cut that out for the...
No, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to make a meme out of it.
I don't mean grey. I've had some silver highlights put in. What do you think,
Absolute
Gus?
story. The hair, the tan, the shirt. It's a story, Lovey.
I probably will go back to my natural blonde at some point. But I don't mean grey old people or anything. I mean just, you know what I mean, Kirst? Like washed out a little bit.
Yeah,
Safe.
there's no character, no colour, nothing that kind of makes them stand out in any way. Everything's just become so, you know.
Safe, really,
Yeah,
is
safe.
the term that I would. And safe is okay, but I think we've gone too far in that direction now.
Mm-hmm. And I know that does lend itself into some stuff that we talk about in a second. But before then, Mike, there's something I wanted to pull out that you said in that sentence. You said give to the right people. So can you just clarify what you mean by the right people? Because it's so easy to give to the wrong people.
I've got something. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. There it is, right. So this is the definition of a real network. A real network is a group of people who are willing and able to help you in your business and personal lives. Right, they're willing to help you because, as we've said, they like you and you've done stuff for them. Right, that's why they're willing to help you. It's not what you know. It's not even who you know. It's who you know likes you and knows you a favour. They're willing to help you for that reason, but they're able to help you because you chose them for that purpose. And I think that's a really interesting thing, because too many people, I think, invest time, headspace, and in some cases money in those people that will never repay that. Now, this sounds a little bit, what's the word?
Callous.
A bit selfish in a sense, but it isn't. All relationships to thrive have got to be symbiotic. They've got to be some give, some take, some give, some take. And you've pretty much got to be on the blue with as many people as possible. They give to you, you give to them. Right. And I think that's an important thing to remember. When you go around, if you look at people and think, am I in the black or am I in the red with them? You need to be in the black, but with the right people, because they can do something for you. They can either give you access to potential clients. They themselves could be a potential client. They can give you candidates, introduce you to candidates or contractors. They can help you out. I once had a problem, right? This is a true story, with our telephone system here. It went on for months and months. It was sporadically dropping out. If I rung into BT about 10 times, I must have rung in 100 times. It was horrendous. Anyway, I turned out, I was a trustee on the thing called the Birmingham Foundation. One of the other trustees was one of the directors of BT. I was telling him about this and he said, I'll fix that for you. Give me a number. He said, you're going to get a call this afternoon. Call comes in, it's Steve. Steve's based in England somewhere. He's listening to me. He takes all the information down. He says, we're going to have to get an engineer out. Well, I'd heard that before, actually. 2 days later, engineer on site. It turned out the cable in the roof had been stretched. I don't know how that affects the reliability, but it does. He replaced the cable. We were fine. So it was that person that it's not just about business. It's about doing stuff for you, able to get things done, to unblock things. So I think you have to be a bit more, what's the word?
Aware. You just have to be aware of what are you giving, and every time you ask or every time you imply you want something, they're kind of going, no, or being squirrely or avoiding it.
They're
takers,
tatters and takers. They're called tatters, and what they do is they're very happy to take. You invite them to the cricket and they go. You invite them to lunch and they go. You get to an event and they come and they soak up all this information, but they won't give anything back. And I think it's important to make a note of the things that you want from the people in your network. It doesn't have to be like 100% accurate, but better than it is now, where you've got no clear idea what it is that you want from them. You know, and it's important to do that, because if you give to those people, then the right people will give back to you. And the easiest way, to find out
how,
you just ask for a favor, small favor early on. And if they don't do a small favor, I wouldn't bother really wasting your time on them, to be honest.
No. And I will once again reiterate that people who are watching this, who are business owners or are more experienced, will probably think, well, that's obvious. More junior, more inexperienced people will not do that. They will have the easy conversations where people will take from them. So you need to monitor that. That's something that you need to monitor. Okay.
I used to train, before we go on very quick. I mean, okay for time. Yeah, we're okay for time. I used to train lawyers, partners in law firms, big law firms, on this relationship building. It was what I used to do, was how to build relationships, how to build networks, and so on and so forth, and how to monetize them. And it's the single biggest thing, that they become emotionally attached to people because they like them, or because they're funny, or because they always come to an event. But actually, and there was one, it was 3 years he'd been invited into the cricket and come into this event and that event. And I said, well, when do you think we might get some business from them? Oh, soon. So I made him ask the question he hadn't asked. What's the likelihood on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you remember we talked about this using a scale before? On a scale of 1 to 10, the likelihood that we will be able to do business, it was a 3. It's like never going to happen. Never going to happen. So I think it's important not to become emotionally connected with people, and have a clear idea what it is that you want from them, by and large, because the less people,
it's a business, isn't it? Ultimately,
it is business. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay,
right. So let's move on to tip number 3, which is gather, store, and use PIF's relationship data. So the obvious question there, Mike, is what is PIF's relationship data?
Okay, let me bring that up for you. It's that. Preferences, interests, family, and situational. There are other bits of information you collect about people, but these are the basic nuts and bolts of relationships. Because if you think about it, let's just put that off. Right? If you think about it, if you're going to have a conversation which is non-operational, then you've got to have something to talk about. And if you can talk about something that the other person is interested in or relates to them, they're much more likely to react right back. And it's called an RTI, right? A reason to interact. So what we want to create is as many RTIs as we can get, a reason to ring in, or a reason to depart from the operational conversation that you've got to have and just take it into the personal land. There's an expression the Americans use, which I really like, and that is get off the operational highway onto the relationship rest area, right? Because that's where relationships are built. And PIF data will do that for you. So, for example, I've got a lawyer who's not a client anymore, but he was a client for a long time. He's a supporter of Brighton and Hove Albion. Apparently, it's a football club, Kirsty. But it's got the word Albion in it, which upsets me a bit. So when I see a result, if it's a good result, if they beat Crystal Palace, which is their big rivals, if they get beat by Crystal, yeah. The other thing is we've got a shared interest in Gary Larson cartoons. So I'll often get a little message from him with a Gary Larson cartoon in. If you don't know who Gary Larson is, Google him. His cartoons are hilarious, right?
It'll bring you joy.
But the point is, you don't need that much to be able to interact. Because once you start that, then the conversation can move on. I don't just talk to him about Brighton and Gary Larson. You know what I mean? It's just a way of being able to interact a little bit and then take the conversation somewhere else. So I think it's really important. Interests are great because we've all got them. You know?
Yeah, so interests I feel like are fairly easy. So there'll be sports teams, hobbies, that kind of stuff. What would preferences be?
Preferences can be where you like to go on your holidays, your sports team. Do you support the Wolves or do you support the Albion? It can be when you go out, or if you're going to send a gift to someone or something, it can be something they've expressed an interest in. Or if you go out, then they like to go to this place or that place. When we had an office, when I was at Crimson, we had an office. I like an office where you own the front door because you can control the whole visitor experience. And we designed a visitor experience, and part of which was to have your name on the plate outside when you parked up in your car parking space with your name and company on. But when you got into the office, the reception ladies would offer you the drink that you had last time. Now, last time you had coffee with us, black coffee with no sugar. Do you want that again, or would you like to see our drinks list? I can either remember, the spiel. And the point of that is to make people feel special. That's the point of it. I'm going to talk about that in a minute with you, but it's really important to make people feel special. And one of the ways is you can learn something about somebody and then bring it out in the future, act upon it, if you will. Not just mention it, you can act upon it and do something of that nature.
Okay.
So
preferences make sense. Interest, question before we move on, is do those interests have to be personal interests or could they be internal? So if it's, they're interested in business ownership things, but they're not so interested in day-to-day recruitment, would that be something? Or does it have to be a personal to be powerful?
It doesn't matter what it is, so long as they're interested in it. Because you're going to talk about something, right? So you got operational. For a recruiter, that is getting a vacancy, taking the details down, sending CVs in, getting responses, arranging interviews, getting responses. Very operational, right? That's what you do as a job. So we get paid for. You got to ring in, you got to email people, get that done. Okay. Anything that falls outside of that person is interested in counts.
Yeah.
And by the way, the PIFs acronym is just there to give you an indication, right? The things that you can learn about people, right? That you then can act upon. Don't get precious. I've got this. I wonder if that's a preference or an interest. It doesn't matter. It's just something that you can interact about. It doesn't matter.
I'm just giving people ideas more than anything else. Family is fairly obvious. The only thing with family is if somebody else has got that information within an organization, you shouldn't use it. You should only use it if you've been told it. And I know you have a story on this, Mike. Be very quick with it, though. Be very quick.
You are right. When I was a contractor, I remember one in particular, agent rang me up, or I didn't know. He'd obviously found my details on their system. Hello, Mike. How's Babs and the kids? Well, I hadn't told him that. He shouldn't have used that information because I didn't give it to him. So you've got to be very careful when you use any kind of personal information that's not in the general domain. So if someone said, well, I'm really interested in AI, you could ring them up and say, I just read that you're really interested in AI, or so-and-so told me you're in. That's okay. But, so-and-so told me you're married to Babs and got 3 kids. No.
Yeah, weird. Okay,
Stupid.
and then finally, before we move on, I've got 2 questions, 2 more questions. One, what is situational? Just quickly, 1 sentence, just define what situational things. They can be really powerful.
It's the most powerful, all of them, because it's things that's happening to them right now. Challenges that they're faced with, opportunities they want to realize. They're running a marathon, their daughter's getting married, they're getting divorced, they're moving house. Anything that's happening to them, particularly if it's got a date on it, because you can make contact the day after or a couple of days later, quick email, quick message, whatever, how did it go? Again, reacting to information that you learn builds strong relationships.
Yeah, okay. And finally, how am I supposed to find this out? Because some people, when you speak to them, are like brick walls. They're not giving anything away. So how am I supposed to get this information from them if I don't already have a relationship that's strong enough to ask them about it?
Let me bring this up. I've got this ready. There.
Share something about yourself first.
They will teach you to listen. What is it? 2 ears, 2 eyes, and a mouth. Use them in that. Yeah, that's fair enough. That is good advice. But when it comes to gathering this PIFs data, no. If you share something about yourself, somebody else is much more likely to share it back again. So if you get onto it, how are you? Well, I'm very good. How are you? Yada, 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 yada. Well, I'm actually a bit tired. What's that now? Because the weekend I was doing gardening. Mrs. Ames had me digging up the vegetable patch. It was a blooming nightmare. Are you a gardening guy? No. You're off then. You're off. You've got to learn to do that, to spin a conversation out. But you're gathering information all the time. And the more you gather, the more you can act on. You don't need that much, to be fair. You don't need that much. But if you share about yourself, I've got 5 grandchildren. I often share that. Not that many of the people I deal with have got grandchildren. Actually, as it turns out, half of them don't even have children. But nonetheless, it's something I'm sharing about myself, and therefore they're likely to share back. It's a really good tip if you're trying to get information out of people.
Okay, so we do have to move on. Now, we are going to build, the next tip is basically the building block of relationship building. But before then, important. Mike, we do have a sponsored message from us. Again, it is from us.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So, okay, so I mentioned this last time. We weren't going to do that today, but this morning something happened. So I'm just going to mention to you this. We've got a workshop coming up, and effectively, it's important if you're targeting high value clients, because if you're targeting a high value client, they're difficult to reach, and they're obviously being bombarded by messages and emails and telephone calls. So to start a conversation with them is a real gift. And we've got a workshop which is focused entirely on that. So it's on the 2nd of December. It's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. London time, Greenwich Mean Time. So we've done it that time. So people in California, we've got some people from the west coast of the States coming on, and they can tune in at 8 o'clock in the morning. But this is the important thing. There's only one space left, because we had someone drop out this morning. They can't make it now, unfortunately. So it was full up until that point, and it's free. So if you'd like that space, just drop me an email, which is workshop to mike@flair.co.uk, FLAIR, if you're listening to this on the podcast. If it's first come, first served, obviously. If you miss it, I promise that we will put you into a list and you will be invited first to the next one. This is very popular. We've got 2. We've got this one this Thursday, which is oversubscribed, actually. Someone's bringing their business partners. There's 9 people, which is a bit much. And then on the 2nd, we've got 7 people. There's 1 space left. If you want this, because you want to start conversations with these high value, very well protected decision makers, then just email that to me. First come, first serve, but we won't forget you. If you want to come on, we will invite you to the next one that we do, I promise.
Okie dokes, right, Mike. Now, number 4, we've got a little bit of time left, so here we go. Number 4, aim for 26 non-operational interactions a year.
Okay, now there's tons of research on this. You can just Google it till your heart's content. But I haven't found a single official study. Let me say that. But there's a lot of anecdotal. Basically what they're saying is you contact someone every couple of weeks. That's what they say. I don't hold with that myself. Right? That rigidity, I think, is almost impossible to implement, especially if you've got a lot of people in your network. You've certainly got to grade people in your network, like very important, less important, and put more effort into the very important than you do into the just important. You've got to do that. But basically what we're looking at here is, as I mentioned, non-operational is not to do directly with work. So it can be a work-based subject, but it's not about making money. Okay, it's not transactional in any way, shape, or form. And you need 26 of them. And the reason that we do this is that relationships are built on interactions. Kirsty's got this. You've got this lovely cartoon that you produced. We could have showed it today, Kirsty, couldn't we?
Could have.
The relationship bridge. So I want you to picture a river with 2 banks, and you're here, and the person you want to build a relationship with here and get something from, right? Every time you interact with that person, there's a little layer goes onto the relationship bridge. Some of those layers are much thicker than others. So if I ring you up and say, do you do this, that, and the other? And you say, yes. And I say, right, someone in my network wants to buy that. If I do an introduction, would that be okay? Yeah. That's a thick layer, right? If you just send a quick note to say, I guess Brighton lost again. Isn't it time you had a decent manager or something? I think I could do better than that, actually. Whatever. Anyway, here's a Gary Larson cartoon to cheer you up. That's a very thin layer. But the layers add up. And as soon as that bridge is thick enough, you can walk over and get what you want. Or sometimes they walk over to you and ask for what you have. Okay, so that's the relationship bridge. Now, for a time, the relationship bridge deteriorates from the bottom. So you've got to keep adding layers until that relationship is strong enough that it's set. So you might meet someone that you were big mates with for 15 years when you were younger, and it's like when you meet, it's like you've never been separated. That's great because that relationship is set. But in business, very often relationships don't set; they just deteriorate. And if you've got to call someone you haven't spoken to for 3 years, haven't got much to talk about. A bit awkward, really. So these interactions that you have, I'm going to talk about how you do this in a minute. It's not as bad as you think. I think just add layers to the relationship bridge, make it stronger and keep it in good shape. So what we're looking at, 26, right? So we're looking at 4 scheduled calls a year. They could be calls or visits or Teams calls, whatever, telephone calls, team calls, visits, depends how important people are. Then that's 4. At the bottom, you've got 12 subscription interactions. So that could be your newsletter on LinkedIn goes out every month, or in our case, the show we do twice a month. So people if you're on our VIP list, then you're notified of these and all the other events that we run in advance. So that's our connection there. The things in the middle, that second tier, are really interesting because they're ad hoc interactions. So that's something like acting on a piece of PIPS data that you've got. So a football team has lost, or you've just seen something, someone has told you that they're interested in something, quick email with a link, saw this, thought of you. And you know that they're going to find it interesting because they told you they're interested in that. That is just ad hoc. It crops up because of something that's happened. Or it could be you see a post they've made on LinkedIn and you comment on it or send them a message about it. It's ad hoc. And you're looking to fill the gap in, which is about 10. So once a month on average, I think once every...
miss out summer and December. Yeah.
Somewhere in that neck of the woods. So you're looking for one of those roughly a month on average. That's your 26. So and you'll find that the more you interact with people, get off that operational highway and onto the relationship rest area, the stronger the relationship is, and the more you can get what you want. Not because it's one-sided, but because you've given plenty before you actually ask for it. Because that's rule number 1 of networking right there.
Okay. All right, Mike. Now, you have one big thing that you really want to highlight for this before we move on to tip number 5. So quickly, what is the thing for these non-operational interactions that are really you want to make a point of? Pick up the phone with exclamation points for those listening on the podcast. Lots of them.
Yeah. I think, again, maybe we've slipped out of the habit of that, of the availability of the internet and messaging in lots of different formats. You get that thing where someone sends you a message and you can't remember, was it Teams? Was it WhatsApp? What was it? I don't know where it's come from. Sometimes it ends up like Facebook Messenger or something, right? Well, there's a plethora of ways to interact now. But in the written word, it's very hard to create that colourful information that you're looking for, that extra level of relationship strength that we're looking for. It just is. It's really hard to do that. You've got to speak to people to do that. So pick up the phone.
Okay. All right. So now we're on to our final tip, which is tip number 5. Build your banter muscles. Make people smile. Mike, what do you mean by this?
Okay. Well, I mean, the word banter can be misconstrued bawdy, a bit risque. I don't mean that at all. I just mean a bit colourful. So I ring you up and I say, hello, Kirsty, how are you? And you say,
what's it to you?
Yes. I wasn't expecting that. What's it to you?
No, probably something like...
You get away with that. We couldn't get away with that with some people. You get away. But you would say, oh, yeah, I'm okay. How are you? And you'd say, well, if I was a box of chocolates, I'd eat myself first. Or if I was a day of the week, I'd be Friday night, I'm that good. Or if I was, if I was going to be any better, I'd have to be twins. It's just a silly little thing that just brings a smile to the face. And it differentiates you out because people don't say that. They certainly don't say, what's it got to do with you?
Sorry, it's just instant. My brain and my mouth, they had no control over each other. My mouth just overrid my brain.
I think that is so funny, Kirsty. But But it just shows, it just lightens the conversation. And you don't have to, you can detect in someone's voice if they've got time anyway. You can just detect, really. I think you can pick it up, you listen for it. And if they're all a bit matter of fact and a bit short, then don't bother. Just get straight to the point, do the thing, and then ring off. But most people sit in their little back offices doing work all the time, and all the conversations they have are work, work, work. If you ring in and say, like, how are you? What's it got to do with it? No, I wouldn't say that. But, well, if I was a day of the week, I'll be Friday. I'm that good. How are you? So, what's going on in your life?
From my memories of the 90s, I was a child in them, but it seemed like the 90s, this was a really common thing. Everybody had big personalities, the banter. Now, in some ways, that obviously led to some bad things. But why do you think this has tailed off so much that it is now in a world of
praise? You can answer that question because you know the answer to that question, don't you? Because you're of that generation, aren't you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, there is a fear of being cancelled or saying something that can be taken advantage of, like used against you. Even if you say it in a sarcastic manner and clearly don't mean it that way, it can be twisted, and people are worried that things are going to come back and kind of get them, anything that ends in ist or ism or obia, they're worried of being accused of those kind of things. So I think people have just become quite safe. So how do you expect people to balance these two, have banter but still remain safe?
Well, it's an interesting question. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, boats are very safe in the harbour, but they don't go anywhere. You've got to go out to sea. You've got to push the boat out, if I can continue that metaphor. If you're just very safe, nothing spectacular is going to happen to you, really. If you really want good relationships with people that are so good, I'm in town, do you fancy a coffee? Yeah, great, because they want to see you, because you're interesting, you make them smile, you've got something about you, there's some character to what you are. They're much more likely to interact with you. And I know that the opposite to this, I know that you've got to be very careful, I get it. But that's just a risk you're going to take. It's not hard, though, as you said. Stay away from religion. Stay away from anything that's got ism or obia, as you said.
Strong politics, I think, is normally.
We all know what those things are. I don't think it's hard to say, oh, well, what did you do at the weekend? There are certain rules between men and women, things that you can't say. Like if you rang up and spoke to a woman, or you saw her in person, or you saw her on screen, and you liked her earrings, you can say, oh, what lovely earrings. I couldn't say that because that's weird. That's not acceptable for me to say that.
I think more the fact that your taste is clearly abysmal based on your shirt that you're wearing.
Yeah. Well, fair enough then. Yeah, but you could say to me that's a really kooky shirt. But I couldn't say, oh, that's a nice blouse you've got. It's just unacceptable. But they're pretty obvious rules, really. Yeah. And when it comes to small talk, we've got a whole course on small talk, how to do small talk. Most of it is observational, really. Yeah. How you doing? Oh, this weather's getting me down. Oh, bloody hell. Played golf yesterday. I hadn't got enough layers on. I was freezing. There was a couple of brass monkeys coming off with a bag off the ninth. It was that cold. It's not that difficult to do, really. I
think it's sort of linked to that stuff when we were talking about the PIFs data. It's starting with yourself, so it's just be a little self-deprecating, just take the mickey out of yourself a little bit, and it kind of disarms people are kind of used to it. And also do pay attention to the sort of signals that the other person's giving you. If you're kind of taking the Michael out of yourself and they're responding with, well, I think that's very funny.
You can tell,
Take a step
also back. Take a bit of a risk.
What's the worst that'll happen? As long as you avoid the big things. What's the worst that'll happen? Okay.
Steer clear of ism and you'll be just fine. Okay.
We have come sort of towards the end of the show. So in a second, I'm going to come to you for your one top tip out of everything that we've spoken about today, what we can do to build strong relationships easily. But before then, let's talk about our next show. And it's actually our last show of the year. So what are we
No, we've got one after this. After this. Yeah, the three of us on the 16th, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. So as our penultimate show of the year.
Penultimate show. Right. So I don't know about you guys, but I think this whole tech AI thing is a bit overwhelming, a bit confusing. Every day there's new stuff coming out. We just developed this, you need this, that, and the other. It's all a bit bitty. So we've got Rob Green on, who's an expert in all this tech malarkey. And he's going to come, rec tech is his thing, right? So he's going to come and talk to us about the tech that you should have if you run a recruitment business. And quite frankly, it's not very much. actually, weirdly. So he's going to talk about that. Then he's going to talk about AI, the add-ons, the extra things that you can put in there. I think we're going to brush on automation a little bit, just a little bit, because it's the most disruptive of the things that are happening now. Not AI, automation. Right, so I think we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then he's going to talk to us about how we should go about buying the kit that we think that we want, because there's a process that you can follow, which means that you're more likely to get the kit that you need and that you will use and that you will get a return on. And when I tell you that years ago, 20% of the IT power that people had bought, they didn't use, it's probably down to 5% now. And you doubt that? Hey, just look at your phone and all the apps you don't use. So we really want to make sure that we're going to get tech that we use and get a return from. And that's what Rob's going to help us do in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, perfect. Very much looking forward to that, because I have no idea. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Right, Mike. We've been through a fair amount today. We've had the 5 tips, obviously, and within them, we've given, a decent amount of information. If people are watching this and they think, right, strong business relationships is my aim, and I need to sort of adapt the way I'm doing things, or I'm going to start talking to junior staff members and get them to do, what is the first thing that you would tell them to start doing?
If you're not doing it already, I would go for my number one, right? Because it's the enabler for everything else. If you know when you can ring someone and get through to them, then you can build a relationship. You can do all the other things we talked about today. You can gather information, you can use information, you can add value, yada, yada, yada. If you can't get through to them, you can't do any of that. So simply to find out as soon as you can, and I'll admit, it's hard to do that through email. You can do it if the relationship is of a certain strength, particularly if you do need to call them about something operational. I need to talk to you about this CV or whatever. Then I need some clarity on the vacancy you've just given me. Can I have a couple of minutes of your time? So that it's not in the day, are you an early starter or late finisher? So you can do it without speaking to them. But if you get to speak to them or meet them, certainly if you meet them at an event, you get that information first off and stick it in your CRM system.
I like that. Okay. Right, we have come towards the end of our show now, so I would like to say thank you to everybody who's watched it live and those who've commented. As always, we do so enjoy it when you do, so thank you very much to you. I want to say a big thank you to Mike today for just being a legend. I take the Michael out of him, but he's a good sport, aren't you, old man?
Less of the old, more of the man. I think that's it. And thank you, Kirsty, for being the hostess with the mostess. This was a tricky one for us to pull off because when we don't have a guest, it's just the two of us. But it is so important. I can't tell you how important it is to build those relationship building muscles, flex them, because you're going to not only survive, you're going to thrive in the new world.
Yeah, perfect. Right. So thank you very much, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks.